So today let's talk about compound paths. I know it can be a very confusing term, but it's really quite simple. So let's draw a circle, hold down Shift, click and drag and release. And let's colour in that circle, we'll make it red. Okay, so we have a circle. Let's say we want to put a hole in the middle of our circle and turn it into an O. So we would draw another circle, hold down Shift, click and drag, click and release Shift. Let's make this one green so you can see the difference. Now, if I put my green over my red, and I'll line it up. Now, if I go to the send panel, it's still going to cut and look like an O. So it really doesn't do anything with our cut files, but it can help us with seeing what we want to see, because at the moment, all we see are two circles, one on top of each other. But if I make that a compound path, so if I come up to Object and I say Make a Compound Path, well, now I have an O. So that's more like what I want to see when I'm designing. But as a cut file, it makes no difference. So pretty cool. Compound paths are very necessary. So basically, compound paths consist of two or more paths that interact with each other. So they can be used when you need to show part of an underlying object through a hole in another object, so making an O. So visually, I can see what that is. Now, if I release that compound path, then I'm back to having two circles. So you know, sometimes when you're playing with text and you've coloured it in because you want to be able to maybe print it or just to see it. Sometimes I colour it in just so I can see it. So, and then we release the compound path and this happens. Now, if I take that to the send panel, see, I've lost the insides of my text. So when I cut that, it's not going to be a P, an O, and a P. Well, it kind of is, but not in the true sense of the word. So what's happened is I've released that compound path, which is a font, and so it's removed the inside. Now, if I go back and I make it a compound path again, yes, it will take out my colour, but now it's going to cut correctly. So I see it come up in the groups occasionally, and people say, I don't understand what happened. Well, that's what's happened is you've released the compound path, and in a font, that's what happens. It'll remove that middle bit, and sometimes you don't even notice until you go to cut it and it doesn't cut correctly, and you think, oh, what did I do? And that's exactly what happened. So just be careful if you're playing with text. But if you want to design, so if you take a square, right, and we'll make that blue. We'll fill it blue actually. There we go. So if I have a square and I want to make a frame, perhaps maybe we'll put round in there. We'll just bring that to the front, just so you can see. And I'll line them up. Okay, so at the moment I have a red circle in a blue square. I go to cut it. Yes, it's going to cut correctly. But visually, I just want to make sure that I'm going to get the effect that I want. Or maybe I want to put something else in there. So I select them both. And I make it a compound path. And now I have a frame. So maybe I want to put the words pop in there. So visually I can see that I have pop inside a frame. And when I go to the send panel, I have pop inside a frame. So although they might sound scary, they're actually quite useful. So maybe try it yourself. Have a play with it. Play with your shapes and things, and get them to interact. So if you take this circle and you put it over this other one that we've actually created, see the cool little effects that you can come up with? So have a play, and that's compound paths. Have fun.